Greetings, dreamer, and welcome to the Sleepy Theorist. Tonight, your imagination is gently invited into a world where something quiet, yet colossal, has vanished. Not a storm, not a war, but a silence so wide it wraps around the planet the disappearance of the internet. Imagine waking to a morning where every device glows without purpose. Every message drifts unanswered, and the endless hum of connection has fallen completely still. Planes fly without instant charts, markets freeze mid-thought, and cities blink in uncertainty as invisible threads unravel in the dark. What happens when the system we never see but always feel simply stops? How does the rhythm of the world shift when its heartbeat vanishes into silence? Tonight, we'll step through a quiet collapse, soft and surreal, as if the sky itself had paused to listen. Let each sentence settle like dust on an unused keyboard. There is no panic here, only wonder unspooling softly, strand by strand. If these calm scientific wanderings ease you toward rest, I'd be grateful if you whispered a subscription and nudged the algorithm with a delicate click. And, in the comments, share your place on this patient planet and the hour you pressed play, so together we can map our quiet constellation of listeners. It begins quietly. You do not notice it at first. The room still holds its usual hum. The ceiling fan still turns. The lights remain warm and obedient. But something else has stopped, and your body feels it before your mind does. Your fingers reach for the familiar rectangle resting beside your pillow. The screen wakes, but nothing follows. No blinking icons. No silent messages waiting like shy guests in the dark. Just an empty signal bar, still and hollow. You blink once, you wait. But it does not come back. You walk to the window. The world looks unchanged. A neighbor waters plants across the street. A car hums past slowly. A bird chirps from a wire, unaffected. But something invisible has folded inward. The digital breath of the world has gone still. The network that carried millions of lives in silence has stopped. You feel it now in your chest, a strange weightlessness where a rhythm used to live. The quiet is not just around you, it is inside you. You check again. Your apps do not refresh. The emails no longer slide in like tide water. The news stands still, frozen in yesterday's thoughts. You open and close the same windows, each one heavier than the last. Somewhere deep inside, a question begins to form. Has it really stopped? All of it. You wait again, thinking perhaps it is a mistake, a local glitch, a brief power flutter. But as the minutes grow, the stillness becomes more certain. Elsewhere, satellites still float above. They glide in silence, still spinning in the vacuum of space, still beaming their signals across a dark sky. But the signals do not land. Receivers below have lost their heartbeats. The servers that once caught every whisper now lie cold, like lanterns blown out after a long night. Beneath your feet, thousands of kilometers of cable stretch across oceans and lands. They are still intact, but their purpose has fallen asleep. You imagine them now like long hibernating serpents under soil and sea dot. You reach for another device. The result is the same. You ask someone beside you, and they nod slowly. They have felt it too. That absence, that pause. Something is missing, but no alarm sounds. There is no panic, not yet, only questions and long silences between them. Your eyes keep returning to the glowing screens, as if willing them to wake. But the glow is empty now, light without voice. Presence without presence. You step outside. The air feels no different, but your steps are. You walk slower. You are listening for something, but you're not sure what. There is no buzz of updates, no echo of information arriving from invisible clouds. You hear only wind and birds and the shuffling of feet. The sound of the world is softer, rounder, more exposed. It is as if a great curtain has been lifted and behind it lies only this, the raw hum of real time. You pass others. Some are still holding their devices up like dowsing rods, as if a signal might yet return if they stand just right. Some have already lowered their hands and begun to talk, not text, not type, not post, but talk. Their voices are tentative at first, rusty even, but they try, and in that effort something flickers. There are no notifications now, no scrolling feeds, no videos buffering. You begin to notice things you had forgotten, the way your breath sounds when there is nothing to override it, the small ache in your wrist, the gentle weight of your feet against pavement, the breeze brushing the side of your neck. Everything that once waited beneath the noise now speaks softly and without interruption. Time feels different now. It no longer pulses in 5-second loops or breaks between notifications. It stretches. You wait longer at crosswalks. You pause longer before speaking. Without the illusion of being everywhere at once, you become more here, more now. You glance up more often. You observe. The buildings around you seem taller than they did before. Their windows no longer shimmer with light from 100 glowing screens. Some remain lit, but it feels different now. You see someone writing on paper through a cafe window. You see a couple playing a board game in a bookstore that has never looked more alive. The air carries the sound of shuffling pages and murmured voices. It is quieter, but not emptier. You return home and open your laptop. Its screen comes alive, but does not connect. You click bookmarks, but they lead nowhere. The pages attempt to load, then stop, like dreams waking too soon. You are left only with what is already downloaded, already stored. You look at your folders, your documents, your saved images. They feel more precious now, like jars of light captured from another world. In this stillness, memories rise like soft echoes. You remember the early internet when connection came in beeps and buzzes, and waiting was part of the ritual. You remember writing emails that were read slowly and answered with care. You remember the thrill of printing something just to hold it. You remember being offline and not feeling alone. Night falls, your room darkens except for the gentle lamplight. You realize the silence has settled deep into your muscles. There is a kind of restfulness to it, a loosening of pressure. You are not being called by anything. There is no need to respond, to check, to catch up. You sit, and that is enough. You breathe, and that is everything. The sky outside is darker than usual. With fewer screens glowing behind windows, the stars begin to step forward. You had forgotten how many there were. Their light is slow, ancient, persistent. Unlike the pixels you are used to, these lights do not flicker with every passing second. They just are. You lie down and the bed holds your weight. You are not pulled away by digital threads. You are not fractured by 1,000 voices. You are whole and quiet and slowly arriving in your own body again. You feel the rhythm of your chest rising and falling. You count it without needing an app to track it. You close your eyes and the world waits with you. But somewhere beneath the calm, a question stirs. If the signal is truly gone, what else will go silent next? What parts of life were carried only by connection? What pulses will falter when the digital blood no longer flows? The hum is gone, but the silence has just begun to speak. And in that silence, the body of the world begins to pause. You wait through the night, hoping it is temporary. That somewhere, a quiet team of engineers is mending the invisible threads. That somewhere, deep in an underground room lined with blinking lights, someone is typing commands to bring the world back online. But as the sky turns pale and morning arrives, the silence stays. You feel it again in your palms, not absence, but a missing rhythm. Something that once lived through every signal is no longer pulsing beneath your fingertips. You check your phone again. Still nothing. The screen lights up with stubborn brightness, but behind it there is no life. No messages arrive. No updates appear. It is as if the heart of something vast and unseen has stopped beating. And though buildings still stand and roads remain paved, the bloodstream of the world has cooled. There is no flow. You walk through your home and begin to notice the quiet bodies of machines. The router, once blinking like a tiny lighthouse, is still. The smart speaker does not answer. The television cannot load a single frame. They sit there like husks vessels waiting for a tide that may never return. You run your hand across their smooth surfaces as if they might respond to touch. They don't, and yet it does not feel like death. It feels like waiting, like holding a breath too long. Outside, the city is slower. People walk with questions in their faces. Stores open, but some hesitate. Credit card machines blink aimlessly. Automatic doors fail to sense. Without the pulse of the network, many small rituals of convenience have become jagged. A man stands in front of a coffee shop, wallet in hand, unsure if paper money will do. A woman at the bus stop asks if the schedule is still correct. No one knows. The answers have stopped arriving. Beneath your feet, the veins of the earth remain. Intact, hundreds of thousands of kilometers of fiber optic cables stretch across oceans and continents, buried in trenches, resting along seabeds. These cables once carried light at nearly the speed of thought, moving messages from one mind to another in fractions of time. Now they are silent tunnels, unlit, unused, a nervous system that has fallen asleep. You pass by a cell tower. It looms above like a monument to a forgotten god. No signal radiates from its limbs. The air around it is empty. Once, it sent out waves that made your phone buzz in your pocket, that carried someone's laughter, someone's cry, someone's last words. Now, it is only metal and wind, a hollow antenna reaching for no one, and yet the city still breathes. You can hear it in the sweep of a broom, in the rattle of distant bicycles, in the hum of a generator. Life does not vanish without the internet, but its beat changes. The cadence of modern life, built on fast answers, instant feedback, and global reach, has stumbled. It does not fall, but it hesitates. You visit a friend, you knock. That alone feels unusual, without a message first. You had to guess to risk arrival without confirmation. They opened the door, surprised but not unkind. You sit together. No phones between you, no distractions to split attention. The conversation moves slowly, with pauses, with silences that do not feel empty. The pulse of your shared moment feels oddly full. It is the rhythm of being present, unfiltered, uncurated. Later, you walk through a supermarket. Many shelves are still stocked. Others are already thinning. Orders have stopped arriving. Inventory systems no longer whisper quietly. Behind the scenes, deliveries are confused. A man at the checkout holds his card in the air, unsure. The cashier shrugs gently. Cash only, for now. The digital register is frozen. You watch as people count bills, fingers tracing paper with practiced unease. The line moves slowly, but without anger. Everyone seems to know that something has changed. You see an ambulance pass by, siren off. Its crew looks tired. You wonder how hospitals are working now, how machines that once streamed real-time data are adapting. Can they share charts, call specialists, book tests? Somewhere, a patient is waiting for a result that cannot be emailed. Somewhere, a life is paused between what is known and what cannot be accessed. You remember how much we built on invisible trust. The trust that things would sync, would refresh, would arrive. The pulse of the internet was more than signal, it was expectation, it was habit, it was faith in the unseen. Now, in the pause, that faith is being tested, and in its absence, new rhythms begin to emerge. You walk past a bookstore that has printed signs taped to its windows. It lists hours, phone numbers, new arrivals. Someone used a thick black marker. The handwriting is neat, but imperfect. You stop and read it, slowly. You notice how long it has been since you last read something that wasn't glowing. A child rides. A bike nearby, calling out to a friend who isn't answering a text. The friend answers with a shout, not a ping. They laugh and ride away. You watch them move with a kind of freedom, not because they are better off, but because they are adapting. The digital pulse was always fast, faster than thought, faster than rest. It made you reachable, searchable, observable, always. Now your body has space to move without being traced. Your thoughts can stretch without needing to be shared. You feel something shift inside your nervous system, a loosening, a sigh. The buzz in your mind softens. The twitch of anticipation fades. You sleep differently now. Not better, not worse, just deeper. You do not wake to alarms that shout through glass. You wake when the light outside finds your face. Your dreams feel less interrupted. Your mind feels less pulled. There is no pulse to check before you rise, only your own. But questions grow too. What systems will collapse? What records will vanish? What lives were tethered too tightly to that electric rhythm? Without the internet, supply chains must slow. Farms, factories, freight, they all depend on timing, on signals, on data. What happens when the pulse stops for too long? You hear a radio in the distance, not streaming, not on demand, just a signal from ear to ear. You sit near it and listen. The voice is calm. It gives the weather, the local news, a story about old trees. There is static, but there is also comfort. The radio is a relic that remembers how to breathe without wires. And you begin to wonder what else still remembers. What systems have slumbered quietly beneath the digital age, waiting to return? Is there a slower pulse, buried deep in the world? Older and more forgiving. The machines are still quiet, but your mind is not. It searches not for updates, but for understanding. What remains when the pulse ends? What grows when the signal fades? You walk home slowly, each step sinking to your own rhythm. You pass the blinking tower again. It does not answer, but above it, the sky stretches wide and unfiltered. And deep within your body, you notice the faint thump of your own pulse, steady, slow and waiting. It begins with small disruptions. Traffic lights lose their rhythm. A green light flickers longer than it should, then turns red with no warning. Horns sound softly, not in anger, but in question. A bus slows at an intersection where no signal guides it. Pedestrians look both ways, more carefully than they used to. Without coordination, movement becomes cautious. The dance of the city has lost its conductor. You step into the morning with a different kind of attention. The sidewalk feels uncertain beneath your feet, not because it has changed, but because the systems that gave it rhythm are faltering. You glance at your watch, though it no longer syncs with anything beyond itself. The time feels thinner now, disconnected from a wider network. It ticks, but without company. At the train station, the board that once blinked with arrivals and departures now hangs frozen. A single row of half-formed letters remains, as if the station began to speak and then fell silent, mid-thought. Commuters gather below it, eyes scanning for meaning where none is offered. Some take out notepads, others talk in hushed tones. Without the algorithm to shape the day, they rely on instinct, habit, and old schedules scribbled from memory. Elevators, slow. Some refuse to move at all. Buildings taller than 10 stories suddenly feel like vertical mazes. You watch people take stairs, holding railings with unfamiliar effort. Inside offices, automatic locks no longer recognize keycards. Doors stay closed or hang ajar. You hear the quiet hum of emergency systems trying to hold the pieces together. But they too rely on data that no longer arrives. You pass a delivery driver standing beside a truck. He holds a tablet that no longer loads. Routes are gone. Instructions are lost. He leans against a vehicle, staring at the paper maps someone handed him that morning. It looks like a fossil. He traces the streets with his finger, slowly, as if remembering how the city fits together. And you realize the city is starting to forget itself. Appointments dissolve. Without synced calendars and reminders, meetings slip away. Doctors' offices have full waiting rooms, but no schedules to guide them. Patients murmur, uncertain who was next. A receptionist flips through a paper logbook, handwritten and hopeful. You see them cross out names and add new ones in the margins. A man in a tie asks how long the wait will be. No one knows. In the center of the city, digital billboards stand, blank. Once they pulsed with light, with sales, with reminders of what to buy, where to go, how to live. Now they loom silently, grey and useless, like mirrors with nothing to reflect. You watch people walk past without slowing down. It is as if the spell has broken. You visit a cafe that used to run entirely on apps. Orders made online, payments processed through screens. Today, a handwritten menu is taped to the counter. The barista takes cash and scribbles names on paper. Cups with a marker that squeaks. The line moves slower, but it feels more real. People speak to each other. They ask questions. They look around instead of down. You sit at a table and notice how quiet it is. No typing, no calls, no playlists curated by artificial ears. Just the clink of mugs, the hush of steam, the low hum of human breath. A woman beside you writes in a notebook. A man reads a newspaper, the kind that stains his fingers with ink. Time unfolds gently here. Outside, the streets feel wider. Cars move more carefully. Without GPS, drivers rely on memory, on landmarks, on asking directions. Some pull over, lost in their own neighborhoods. A cyclist stops at a corner, unsure which way the one-way sign once pointed. The city has grown uncertain of its own map. You walk to the library, curious. Inside, there is motion, not frantic, not loud, but alive. Shelves are busy. People read. They copy things by hand. Students sit in circles, sharing printed articles. A librarian holds a clipboard, guiding someone to the right section. The computers are off, but the minds are not. In a corner, a child asks where to find a book about stars. The librarian smiles, kneels, and walks with them toward the shelves. You realize this moment once so easily replaced by a search bar now holds weight. It holds warmth. The city, though confused, is remembering how to be human, but not all is calm. Emergency services strain. Without instant communication, response times grow longer. Firefighters knock on doors rather than receiving dispatch alerts. Police rely on radios and word of mouth. Hospitals are overwhelmed, not by injury, but by confusion. The systems that tied them together have unraveled. You think of all the layers once hidden behind screens, all the quiet codes that kept the city stitched together. They are gone now, and in their place are hands and paper, voices and footsteps. It is slower, it is clumsier, but it is present. Night falls again. The streetlights come on, but not all of them. Some blink, some remain dark. You walk through patches of shadow and glow. The city flickers, like a memory trying to surface. In the quiet, you hear water dripping from a pipe, a dog barking 2 streets away, the breath of your own thoughts returning. You wonder how long the forgetting will last. Will the city rebuild its digital memory? Or will it find a new one, carved into walls and written on signs? You look up and see the buildings, not as machines, but as shells, homes, for thought, for movement, for rest. The lights inside still flicker. Life still pulses, just differently. At home, your routine adjusts. No calendar alerts, no reminders. You keep a notebook beside your bed now. You write down what you want to remember. You sketch what you saw. Your handwriting grows steadier. Your thoughts stretch longer before they are interrupted. Sleep comes, not from exhaustion, but from exhale. The city outside your window murmurs. Less noise, more breath. It is learning. Not quickly, not perfectly, but it is trying. In the pause, something soft has begun to grow. Not a solution, not a fix, just awareness. And as you drift into sleep, you feel that awareness flicker in your own mind. The memory of a city forgetting, and slowly, gently, beginning again. It happens slowly at first, like a dream unwinding its thread. You go to send a message to someone far away and remember, again, that there is no path for it to travel. The screen remains blank, no ticking dots, no reply waiting just a moment behind the veil. Across the world, someone else reaches for the same comfort and finds only stillness. The illusion of nearness breaks like frost under a warming sun. For so long, distance had been a solved problem. A voice could reach the other side of the earth in less time than it took your breath to rise. A photo, a thought, a glance, all could leap oceans without effort. Now, they must wait, or be forgotten. The tether between hearts stretches until it vanishes entirely. You think of a friend in another country. You don't know if they are safe, or well, or asleep. You cannot ask, you cannot know. The silence between you becomes more than silence. It becomes space. The true size of the earth begins to return, not measured in miles, but in the weight of unspoken words. Airports still function, but they feel older. Tickets are printed by hand. Lines grow longer. Coordination falters. Without the hidden current of data to guide them, flights wander through delays and confusion. A man clutches a folder of papers at the gate, his handwriting replacing the usual screen. You see nervousness in the eyes of travelers, not fear of flight, but fear of disconnection. You remember when a video call could stitch you into someone else's kitchen. You could see steam rising from their tea, the curve of their smile. Now, to see them, you would have to cross rivers and borders to knock on a door. The world has grown vast again. Intimacy has returned to its roots, effort, distance, time. Mail begins to matter again, not just for documents, but for voices. Letters take days, even weeks. You imagine the long journey of your words, folded into envelopes, carried by truck, by ship, by hand. The delay adds meaning. Every sentence must earn its place. Every reply is a promise, I will think of you again. Radio waves stretch farther than most things now. Shortwave voices hum across static seas. A woman with headphones listens for signals from a continent away. She writes down call signs, collects the pieces of a world still trying to speak. It is not fast, but it is something. The planet has not gone silent, only quieter. Without the internet, even maps lose their magic. You must plan your routes, know your landmarks, ask strangers. The comfort of always knowing where you are fades. You walk more slowly, unsure of direction. But in that slowness, you notice the ground, the texture of walls, the curve of streets. You are no longer floating above the world you are in. Families stretch apart like constellations. Grandparents can no longer stream birthdays. Siblings cannot video chat across time zones. There are more letters now, more phone calls, more aching gaps. The phrase, "I miss you," returns to its full weight. It is no longer said after a day. It is said after months. Cultural borders grow sharper again. News does not arrive simultaneously in every language. Trends do not leap continents overnight. Fashion, slang, music, they return to their local rhythms. What was once global becomes regional. Cities begin to dance to different beats again, not because they want to be apart, but because the string that tied them has loosened. The illusion of a shared moment across the planet has faded. Midnight in Tokyo is no longer felt in Paris. Sunrise in Nairobi does not instantly stream to New York. The world is no less beautiful, but it is harder to hold all at once. You remember stories from old explorers, letters carried by sea, messages hidden in the folds of coats, long walks across kingdoms to say something that now would have taken 10 seconds to type. The effort was the message. The journey gave it shape. You sit beneath the sky and wonder how many voices are trying to reach someone. You picture the arc of hope in each of them, like tiny signals flickering through the dark, searching for a path. Some will arrive, some won't, but each is real in its trying. Travel takes longer now. Plans must be made, routes memorized. You carry paper with addresses on it, written carefully so they won't be lost. You ask for help more often. Strangers become bridges. A woman draws you a map in the dirt. A man walks with you until you recognize a street. Human connection grows where digital convenience once lived. At night, you look at the stars and realize they were always distant. Their light takes years to arrive. You wonder if our messages, too, are still drifting, waiting to be found. Somewhere, a server may flicker back to life. Somewhere, a forgotten signal may burst through and connect to hearts. But until then, you live inside the gap. You find yourself talking more to those near you, neighbors, shopkeepers, people at the park. With the far now truly far, the close has become more important. You see the value in shared meals, in walking side by side, in presence that doesn't buffer or glitch. And yet, you do not forget those who are distant. You hold them in thought. You say their names aloud. You light a candle. You keep a box of letters you will send when the path opens again. Some part of love does not require instant reply in a cafe. You meet someone who remembers when their village got its first internet connection. They describe the feeling as if the whole world had poured into their hands. Now, they say, it feels like the ocean has receded, but in its place is a quieter tide, one that asks for more than a click. Distance is no longer defeated. It is respected. It shapes your days. It lengthens your thoughts. It deepens your longing. But it also reveals something precious, that effort is love in motion. You walk past a payphone, long ignored, now ringing. A child picks it up, says hello, laughs and hands it to their father. The father listens, then smiles. The signal is faint, but it is enough. And as you move on, you feel the shape of the world returning. Not the flat map on a glowing screen, but the roundness of the earth beneath your feet, the curve of time, the quiet hum of waiting. You open a drawer you haven't touched in years. Inside, notebooks lie like fossils, pages yellowed at the edges, some curled slightly from time. A pencil rolls gently as you reach in. There is a stillness in the drawer, a kind of breath held for too long. You lift a sheet of paper, and it sighs not audibly, but in your fingertips. The world that once relied on this soft, fibrous skin is stirring again. You used to write everything by hand, not because it was charming, but because it was all there was. And now again, your hands remember how to hold a pen, not for scribbles or brief notes, but for thoughts, for weight, for slowness. Ink flows, not just as language, but as rhythm. You write your name, and it feels like a small return. Your kitchen has become a desk. The wooden table holds stacks of paper, now letters, lists, folded maps, scraps that were once receipts, now turned to notepads. You find an old calendar from 3 years ago and begin to repurpose it. Dates are scratched out. New ones written in. Time becomes a matter of handwriting. At the market, you notice signs printed by hand, the price of apples drawn in careful, bold strokes. Sale notices, written with exclamation points made of actual ink. There are typos, there are smudges, but they feel human. Behind each mistake is a person, not a machine. You begin to trust them more. At home, you dig deeper. You find an instruction manual for an old device. The diagrams look comical, their lines thick, their language oddly formal. But as you turn each page, you understand that once, all things were explained like this in print, in paragraphs, not in instant pop-ups or flashing tutorials. You appreciate the patience it must have taken, both to write and to follow. Libraries begin to refill. Paperbacks move from dusty boxes to front shelves. Teachers arrive with armfuls of photocopied worksheets. Students sit in circles around printouts. No one scrolls. They flip pages, fingers stained faintly with ink, margins filled with doodles again. In cafes, newspapers reappear, not on tablets, but folded beneath elbows. You hear the crisp crack of a page turned wide. Headlines come in large. Type, static, unchanging, slow. You read all the way to the end, not because it is breaking, but because it is full. Someone wrote this to last more than a moment. People begin to exchange zines. Homemade booklets stapled by hand, passed from pocket to pocket. Poems, recipes, observations. You hold one, its cover drawn with markers, its spine slightly crooked, and it feels like a whisper made physical. You visit a post office. The line is long. People carry envelopes, real ones, sealed with careful folds. Some have stamps from old collections. Some are decorated with stickers or handwritten drawings. The clerk behind the counter handles each with the care of a librarian. Nothing rushes here. A package is weighed. A letter is logged. You leave with a receipt printed warm. Without the internet, bureaucracy returns to paper. Forms are picked up in person. Instructions read aloud. Mistakes crossed out gently with a pen. You stand in line and feel the patience that once ruled every process. The slowness frustrates some, but for others, it becomes a kind of grounding. You keep a journal, again. Not for likes, not for sharing, just for remembering. The sound of a page turning becomes part of your day. You write before sleep, not much, a sentence, maybe two. But each word holds stillness. It holds the echo of the day. Children begin to draw more. Without screens, their tools are crayons. Pencils, chalk, sidewalks bloom with color. Refrigerator doors fill with magnets holding paper creatures. You watch a child carefully write their name in block letters, then erase it, then write it again, each version more confident. In classrooms, Blackboards regain their place. Teachers write slowly, speaking as they do. Students copy interlined. Notebooks, no autocorrect, no spell check. Just the slow learning of hand and eye. And you see it, knowledge made visible in real time. Menus at restaurants are handwritten. Specials change, not with a tap, but with fresh chalk. You overhear someone asking the waiter what's good today. The waiter smiles and leans in this conversation. Once reduced to stars and ratings, now becomes a moment of trust. You attend a small gathering. The invitation was hand-delivered, on thick, cream-colored paper, folded in half. A wax seal, clumsily pressed, gives it a ceremonial feel. You open it slowly. It feels heavier than it is. You hold it a little longer than needed. Art galleries begin to feature sketchbooks, original pages, not digital prints. You look at the indentations where a pencil pressed too hard. You see corrections, hesitation, the mind changing its path. The intimacy of imperfection moves you. You begin to value permanence, not for its resistance to change, but for its ability to linger. A recipe written by a grandmother, a note left on a fridge, a list found inside an old book. These scraps are artifacts, not because they were meant to last forever, but because they did. Somehow, at night, you keep a notepad beside your bed, not to be productive, just to catch drifting thoughts. A line of poetry, a dream fragment, the name of someone you miss. The act of writing calms you, as if your thoughts, once placed on paper, can rest. You realize that paper doesn't demand, it doesn't ping, it doesn't remind or refresh, it waits. It is always ready to be touched, but never insists. You control when it speaks. One afternoon, you visit a printing press, not a digital one, but old, heavy, and metal. Ink smeared on. Fingers, plates aligned by hand. You watch someone set type. Each letter a tiny sculpture. Each word an arrangement of weight and space. The sound is rhythmic, clack, press, pull, release. It soothes you. In the quiet of a world without digital breath, the rustle of a turning page becomes thunder, not loud, but deep. Each paper object you touch feels like a voice, a quiet one, but certain. And so, the paper awakens, not as a relic, but as a companion. Its language is slower, but it endures. And as you rest your hand on a page that holds your thoughts, you wonder what else has been waiting quietly to return. They were never gone, just quieter than the world wanted to hear. The libraries sat through the noise, through the screens, through the years when everything had to happen now. Their shelves waited. Their spines leaned against one another like old trees in the wind. And when the internet vanished, when urgency faded, the doors to these places felt heavier, but the welcome inside was warm. You walk in and it smells like memory. Paper, glue, dust, with the scent of ideas that settled in place and never left. No notifications buzz here. No screens flicker. The silence is gentle, not empty. It wraps around you like a woolen shawl, encouraging you to move slower, to breathe, deeper, to look. The shelves stretch long and high. Some titles lean at odd angles. Some have been handled so often that the covers have softened. There are no pop-ups, no suggested algorithms. The only suggestion is your own curiosity. A librarian smiles from behind a desk, not hidden by a monitor, but open, present, ready to help. You run your hand along a row of books. The feeling is physical. Leather, cloth, plastic, paper. Each binding holds a rhythm. You pull one out. A world in 300 pages. A voice from another time, still speaking. You flip the cover and a note is scribbled inside. Someone else once loved this book. Their handwriting is the fingerprint of their attention. There are whispers, quiet footsteps, the rustle of pages. A child asks about dinosaurs. An elder searches for a recipe from their childhood. The students share a table, copying notes. The only glow is from lamps yellow, calm like fireflies. You sit down with a stack. No logins required. No loading bars. Just presence. The words are slow, thoughtful, arranged with care. You realize that even in books about science or law or history, there is a rhythm. These were not thrown together. They were built. Thought lived here before it was fast. The children's section still has tiny chairs. The colors are bright but faded from sunlight, not screens. A puppet show flyer hangs on the corkboard. Nearby, a handwritten list of story times, each one a promise to gather and listen. The future used to look like this. People in a room, sharing a tale. Microfilm machines hum faintly. Card catalogs still stand, dusty but dignified. Some people use them with ease, fingers dancing over drawers. Others ask for help, and a librarian gently teaches. It feels ceremonial, like learning to read the rings of a tree. You find a book on a subject you've never thought about: beekeeping, or antique locks, or cloud formation. You check it out just because you can. It's heavy in your hand. It feels like it matters. Someone drops a coin in a donation jar. The bell above the door rings softly. A teenager carries 5 books, all about stars. A mother reads aloud to a toddler, her voice a soft rhythm among the pages. There is no algorithm here to decide what you'll like. You decide. You wander, you take chances. A shelf surprises you. A book opens to a paragraph that holds exactly the thought you didn't know you needed. Libraries become meeting places again. Local notices pinned to bulletin boards. Study groups around tables. Soft conversations about the past, or the future, or how to fix a leaking tap. Knowledge is exchanged, but so is kindness. Evenings in the library are quieter still. The sun angles through high windows. Shadows stretch across reading nooks. You hear the clock tick. You hear the sound of someone turning a page, breathing out. You notice the art on the walls. Portraits of authors, paintings donated long ago. Someone has written a poem and left copies by the door. Take one. The sign says, "You do." It fits in your pocket like a folded secret. A group of teens sits near the graphic novels. They speak in murmurs, point to panels, laugh quietly. This is their space now to no streaming, no live chat, but story, color, dialogue, connection. That you find books with margin notes. Generations of readers talking to one another without knowing. One writes, "This part made me cry." Another, "Read this twice." You read the same line and feel the echo. Workshops begin again. Handwriting, public speaking, repairing small engines. Local authors reading aloud. Children's drawing classes. Elder storytelling circles. The library is not a place to store books, it is a place to gather memory. You realize something. The internet was never a replacement for the library. It was a mirror, maybe a speedway. But here, in this room of spines and covers and people who listen, knowledge feels alive in a different way. It breathes, slowly. It stays. Late at night, the library dims. You watch someone return a book carefully. They place it on the return cart like setting down a gift. You mimic their gesture. Yours too is a gift, not just returned, but passed forward. You imagine all the books not yet read, all the minds waiting quietly between pages. You walk past them, like walking through a silent crowd, each one ready to speak if asked. You promise yourself you'll return. As you step outside, you carry not just paper, but presence. A connection not made of wires, but of weight and wonder. And in the hush that follows your footsteps, you begin to hear the quiet murmur of a world, rediscovering how to listen. The morning smells different when the machines go quiet. Not like code or circuitry, but like bread, like fruit ripening under sun-warmed tarps. You walk toward the market and hear the voices before you see the stalls. Not alerts, not beeps, but people, talking, bartering, asking, offering. The digital mirrors are gone. No reviews, no live prices, just faces, just hands. You step into the rhythm of it, the shuffle of footsteps, the rise and fall of conversation. Money returns to its earliest form, something held, not clicked. You feel it in your palm, the weight of coins, the soft crease of a bill folded too many times. A vendor counts your change with quiet focus. You nod, no receipt needed. The produce isn't categorized by 5-star ratings. You have to look, to touch, to smell. An apple has a small bruise, but it also has a sweetness you've forgotten. A melon is weighed not by barcode, but by heft in your hand. You ask the woman selling it how to tell if it's ripe. She taps the side. Hear that? She says, you. Listen, you learn. Clothing hangs from racks under canvas roofs. No filters, no digital modeling, just fabric, motion, light. You try a shirt on, over your own. A mirror stands nearby, scratched but honest. A man next to you says it suits you. You believe him more than any algorithm. Markets begin to reshape themselves. What was once hidden behind screens now arrives in person. A craftsman shows you a wooden spoon he carved. You see the curve of his hand in the grain. You ask how long it took. 3 evenings, he says. You hold it like it matters. Because it does. At a corner table, someone is writing names on paper bags with a black marker. You see your name appear, not typed, but formed. It feels different. It feels real. You watch them fold the top of the bag with practiced care. You say thank you. They smile with their whole face. You notice something missing, urgency. There are no flashing sale signs, no countdown clocks. If something is out of stock, it's out. If something is rare, it's more treasured. Scarcity becomes something too. Respect, not something to panic over. You carry cash again. Not much, but enough. You budget by feel. You count change in your hand. You decide what matters today. The wallet becomes a place of choice, not just storage. You pass a booth selling eggs. The sign says fresh this morning. You ask, and the vendor points behind her, chickens pecking in a small pen. You hear them cluck. The distance between source and sale is one breath. Food trucks have menus written in chalk. They change by mood, by ingredient, by weather. No codes. You wait your turn. You ask what's good. The cook tells you what they ate for breakfast and suggests the same. You see people talking, not texting, but talking. Disputes are solved with conversation. Compliments are given out loud. Children help carry bags. Strangers offer extra string. The market feels not like a transaction, but like a village. Digital loyalty cards are gone. In their place are real memories. You came last week, someone says, handing you a free bunch of herbs. Try this one, you smile, surprised to be remembered. Prices fluctuate not by algorithm, but by season. Peaches are expensive now. They'll be cheaper next month. The vendor shrugs and says, that's how they are. You nod, learning again the rhythm of ripening. Flyers are pinned to corkboards. Events, announcements, lost pets. The ink smudges when it rains, but the words remain. Someone tacks up a poem. Another adds a drawing. The board becomes a chorus of human presence. Behind a table of soap bars, a teenager explains how she made each scent: lavender from her garden, charcoal from burned herbs. You buy one, not because you need it, but because the story matters. You notice fewer bags. People carry baskets, carts, cloth. The weight of goods is returned to the body. You feel it in your arms, in your spine. You carry what you value. It slows you down, but also grounds you. There is music now, not from speakers, but from instruments. A man with a fiddle, a girl with a drum. Children dance without choreography. The notes wander like the breeze. No one records. Everyone just listens. At one stall, a woman paints small stones. You ask, why? She says, to leave them in places, for strangers. She gives you one with a star on it. You keep it in your pocket like a small promise. The weather decides the market. Rain thins the crowd. Sun brings it alive. There's no delivery option, no rainproof app, just real sky, real patience. You learn to bend with it, not fight. Sometimes someone runs out of change. You offer to wait, or accept a few cents less. Trust becomes a form of currency. Not everything needs exactness. Not everything needs proof. You hear laughter, not typed, not looped reel. Someone is bartering for flowers. They get to stems instead of 3. They laugh anyway. You remember. That joy was never meant to be transactional. A small child sells lemonade. Her sign is misspelled. No one corrects her. People line up, not because it's the best, but because it's hers. You see a man offering repairs, shoes, bags, belts. His tools are old, his hands older. You watch him. Sew a strap back to life. You pay him not for time, but for skill, for care, for the way he nods once it's done. You leave the market with less than you planned, but more than you expected. A note in your bag, a smile from a stranger, a scent that lingers. You look up. There are no digital signs, no banners, just sky, and under it people exchanging more than good stories, trust, memory. The market no longer mirrors desire. It holds it, shapes it, slows it down, and as you walk away, you wonder what other spaces might bloom again without reflection. Without automation, just the presence of hands, the sound of voices, the steadiness of trade made human again. It begins with paper. Not digital paper, not an editable square of glowing light, but real paper folded, torn from a pad, or cut clean and thick. You find it in a drawer you haven't opened in years, beneath batteries that no longer charge and pens that still might write. There is a stack of envelopes and a half-used roll of stamps. The first letter you write feels strange. Your hand is unsure, your wrist tight from the unfamiliar motion. You forget where to place the date. You don't know how to begin. But slowly, like stretching in the morning, your muscles remember. You begin with a greeting, not a notification. You write not to inform, but to share. The pen glides. You listen to the sound it makes, soft, scratching, steady. There's no delete key, no autocorrect. Every word must be chosen with care, and every mistake is a mark of your presence. You reread your sentences before moving on, not to edit, but to feel them again. You pause often, you sip tea, you stare out the window. Thought has returned to its slower form, and with it comes reflection. You remember the person you're writing to, not just their username, but their laugh, their posture, the shape of their hands. You see them as you write, and somehow your words become warmer. You seal the envelope. The flap sticks with effort. You press it down like sealing a promise. You address it by hand. The letters are uneven, but honest. You drop it in the mailbox and feel something stir, not urgency, but anticipation. The letter is gone. Carried by a system older than any algorithm, it will travel not instantly, but faithfully. Days pass. The waiting is not empty. It is full. You wonder when it will arrive. You wonder how they will feel when they open it. You imagine them smiling, pausing, maybe even reading it twice. You remember that once this was normal. Once people lived with this kind of patience, and it did not feel like loss. A letter arrives for you. It's not a bill, not a bank notice. It's a letter hand-addressed, creased, with a small drawing in the corner of the envelope, your name in ink. Your fingers tremble slightly as you open it. Inside, someone has taken time. They've formed each word slowly, as you did. They've thought of you. This is a message that traveled through hands, not clouds. You read it again at night. You fold it and place it in a drawer. The paper softens each time you hold it. It becomes part of your room, your routine. A letter has weight in the world, not just grams, but gravity. It asks nothing of you except to be held and understood. You begin to write more, to friends, to family, even to strangers. Some write back, some don't, but the act of writing is its own reply. You send poems, you send recipes, you send pressed flowers between pages. You send thoughts to quiet for a text. The mailbox becomes a doorway, a ritual. Stationery returns. Ink stains your fingertips. You learn how paper smells. You choose stamps with care. You find joy in the texture of an envelope. Some letters arrive with smudges from rain, with a fingerprint on the corner. They are imperfect and beautiful. Post offices grow busy, not overwhelmed, but steadily alive. People line up not to pay a bill, but to send a part of themselves. The postal worker smiles more. They recognize you. They see your letters and say, "That's a long one," and you smile to dot mail routes become familiar again. The sound of the delivery truck, the drop of the mailbox lid, a rustle by the door. You check once a day, not every 5 minutes. The pace of attention shifts. The thrill is quieter, but deeper. You notice people reading letters in parks, on benches, on porches. They pause between paragraphs. They sit longer. They sigh more often. The world slows just a bit more with every folded page. Letters begin to change the rhythm of your thoughts. You save ideas for the next one. You carry a notebook. You jot down a sentence to share. You begin to see your life as something worth describing, worth narrating. Memory becomes more textured when it's wrapped in ink. Children are taught cursive. Again, not for tradition, but for expression. They write to pen pals across towns, across countries. Their letters are clumsy and sweet. "Dear friend," they begin. The world opens one envelope at a time. You begin to decorate your writing. Space, a box for stamps, a place for returned letters, a tin of paper clips, a candle. Letter writing becomes not just a habit, but a place, a space in your home where you meet the quiet part of your voice. You receive a letter written by someone old. The handwriting trembles. The thoughts are slow, but there is wisdom here. You read it twice, then write back. You realize that the gaps in the internet did not just disconnect data, they disconnected generations. Letters begin to mend that. A community board fills with envelope art. People draw tiny scenes on the outside. Trees, stars, maps. Mail becomes beautiful again. Some letters are left anonymously in libraries or cafes, tucked into books with a simple message. To a stranger, "I hope you're okay." These become treasures. You notice how much more you remember the words you receive on paper. You carry them in your head, in your chest. They echo longer. A compliment in ink seems to last for days. A confession arrives like thunder, then rests like rain. In the absence of rapid replies, conversations stretch. A thought you write today might be answered in a week. That space allows change. By the time you write again, you are slightly different, and that difference becomes part of the conversation. You write in the margins. You underline. You respond not only to content, but to shape. The way someone loops their Ys, the way they write your name, it all speaks. The letter is not just the message, it is the voice. You begin to keep a box, 4 letters, not to archive, but to return to, on quiet evenings, on sad days, on days when the world feels thin. You unfold a letter and the day deepens. The past becomes a friend. The internet once made everything instant. Letters make everything intentional. There is no undo. There is no erase. There is only the courage to say what you mean, and the grace to read what was meant. And as you finish, another letter, sealing it, placing it gently into the slot. You wonder if slow communication teaches us to speak differently, then what else might we relearn in this world of quiet rediscovery? There was a time when the sky told stories, and you listened. Now, with no screen to refresh, no forecast in your pocket, you lift your eyes again. The weather is no longer an icon or a number. It is a presence. It is a teacher. And every morning begins with observation. You open the window. The breeze is light but cool. It carries the scent of rain that hasn't fallen yet. You step outside and look up, searching not for certainty, but for signs. The clouds are low and woolly. They move slowly. You tilt your head and wonder, what do they know? You watch the birds. Their flight is low, their calls sharp. You remember, someone once told you, birds fly low before rain. You don't know if it's true, but you feel it might be. And that feeling is enough for today. Your senses begin to stretch toward meaning. The air smells damp. The light is soft and silver. Your skin tells you what the numbers used to. You feel temperature not as a digit, but as sensation. You dress accordingly, not perfectly, but thoughtfully. There is no hourly prediction now. You check the shape of leaves instead. The underside of the maple looks paler today. The wind moves, in swirls, not lines. You stand still and feel your own rhythm adjust to this older science, a science of presence, not precision. You carry an umbrella not because you read a forecast, but because your bones remembered something. You remember your grandmother saying her knees ached before a storm. You listen to your own body. You learn to trust it again. At noon, the sun appears, then hides. Shadows stretch and fold. You sit outside and feel the air shift. The temperature drops slightly, but enough to notice. You don't rush inside. You stay and watch. This is not a delay. It is a dialogue. Neighbors begin to do the same. Some look up. Some step onto their porches. You wave. You trade guesses. Smells like a thunderstorm, someone says. Or maybe just a strong breeze. You smile. It's not about being right. It's about wondering out loud. In the evening, you see clouds gather like a council. They are dense, heavy, glowing from within. No one told you this would happen, and yet you know. The dog lies closer to the door. The wind changes direction. A stillness arrives. Rain comes slowly, not all at once, not as an alert, but as a whisper. A single drop, then 3, then a soft percussion on rooftops and leaves. You sit by the window and listen. This sound is old. This sound needs no translation. You notice how different rain feels when it is not predicted, only witnessed. It becomes more than a backdrop. It becomes a visitor. You make tea, not because it's cold, but because the rain asked for it. The next day is clear, blue, bright, open. There is no app to confirm this, only your eyes. You step outside and let the sun warm your face. You squint. You don't miss the UV index. You know your own limits. You start to keep a notebook, not for journaling, but for the sky. You note the date, the wind, the clouds. You press a fallen leaf between pages. Your observations become poems, not forecasts, but reflections. You meet someone who does the same. They call it a weather diary. You share notes. You point out cloud formations. You both agree that yesterday smelled like spring, even though it's not quite spring yet. Your words hold more weather than numbers ever did. Children begin to learn. Weather through windows and walks. They touch bark to see if it's damp. They cup their hands to feel the air. They learn that thunder echoes and lightning teaches counting. They grow up knowing how to read the world without needing to scroll it. You visit a farmer's market, and someone selling herbs says the mint is especially strong this week. Must have been the fog. You nod, understanding that climate isn't just science. It's taste, it's timing, it's life. A friend tells you that crickets slow their song when the temperature drops. You listen that night, counting chirps. There is a formula, they say, but you forget it. You just listen. The crickets speak with rhythm, with patience. Moss grows thicker on the north side of trees. You walk in the forest and test it. The pattern holds. You find comfort in the consistency of nature's compass. You trust your sense of direction in a way that once felt outdated. The scent of ozone becomes familiar. You learn to recognize it before a summer storm. You teach someone else. They breathe deeply and say, I smell it too. This is how knowledge spreads, now breath by breath, moment by moment. Evening falls. You lie on your back and look at the stars. The air is dry. The sky is clear. You guess that tomorrow will be cool and still. You might be wrong, but you might be right. And either way, you'll meet the day with attention, not assumption. You no longer feel helpless without a forecast. You feel awake, informed not by updates, but by the earth itself. You notice how the light changes by the week, how the wind carries scent from places you can't see. You become part of the weather, not separate from it. And one morning, as the dew clings to blades of grass and the sun lingers behind a thin veil of cloud, you realize the weather has always been telling stories. You just needed to stop scrolling long enough to hear them. You think about what else you've stopped checking, and what, in turn, you've started noticing. It starts with a silence so unfamiliar that it feels like a question. No vibrations, no sounds, no banners lighting up your screen, no chimes that pull your attention away. For the first time in years, your day begins without being summoned. You wake up slowly, not to an alarm, but to the way light slips between curtains. You hear birds, real ones, and the faint hum of morning outside. Your first thought is not of checking messages, checking updates, checking in. It is just a thought, unshaped and unclaimed, resting in its own space. Your fingers twitch toward the phantom of a phone, but there is nothing there, and, slowly, the reflex fades. You sit in bed and feel your body as it is, without instruction. Your breath finds its pace. Your heart is not pushed by urgency. You are no longer a responder. Your brain begins to settle. The static clears. The thoughts that once arrived in flickers and fragments now come in whole waves. You follow one from beginning to middle to end. You remember what it feels like to think without being interrupted. You dress without checking the time. You eat without a screen beside your plate. You do one thing at a time. There is no rush, but there is rhythm. The world begins to reveal its own cues, the way sunlight hits the floor, the way a shadow lengthens. You begin to trust the pace of reality. You feel a strange sensation. It is not boredom, it is spaciousness. Your mind is no longer crowded. The furniture of thought has room again. You wander through your own ideas. You discover corners you'd forgotten existed. You go for a walk. The path is quiet, but your mind is not empty. It is alive. You notice things, the sound of your footsteps, the smell of damp leaves, the feel of your jacket sleeve as it brushes your side. You remember how rich the world is without being curated. You pass people who do not look down at their hands. They nod or smile. Eye contact returns. There is no screen between you. The absence of distraction makes room for small kindnesses. A door held, a compliment, a shared laugh over nothing at all. The dopamine comes slower now, but it stays longer. A good meal, a warm bath, a long conversation, these become sources of joy again. Not bursts, but blooms. The pleasure is softer, but it fills you more fully. You begin to notice how tired you were, always on edge, always waiting for the next ping. Your nervous system uncoils, your shoulders drop. You sleep longer, deeper. Dreams stretch without being sliced by sudden light. At first, you miss the buzz, the red dot, the feeling of being needed. But slowly, that craving dissolves. You realize that being constantly reachable was not the same as being seen. You were always alert, but rarely present. Now, you are both. You read again, not summaries, not headlines, but full pages, chapters. You lose hours inside stories, not scrolls. Your mind becomes a home again, not just a hallway for other people's noise. You write, not for likes, not for views, just for yourself. You scribble thoughts on paper. You keep a journal. You let your handwriting be messy. You don't worry about typos. You find your voice in the quiet. Art returns, not polished, not monetized, but real. You hum as you cook. You doodle. You play an instrument poorly and love it anyway. You do things just to do them. Joy becomes process, not performance. You sit with someone for an hour and talk about one thing, just one. You stay on topic. You ask questions. You listen not to respond, but to understand. The conversation deepens. Time bends. Time bends. There are no notifications to break the moment. No alerts to split your attention. You live fully inside each experience. Your brain begins to trust that it won't be pulled away. Your memory improves, not because you study harder, but because you are there, present. When you walk through a door, you remember why. When someone shares a story, it stays with you. Your life becomes more continuous, less fragmented. You grow more patient. When someone is late, you wait. When a plan changes, you adapt. Without instant updates, you begin to live with uncertainty again, and you realize it doesn't harm you, it humbles you. The silence deepens, but it is not empty, it is alive. Your thoughts echo, not because they are lonely, but because they are heard by you. You begin to notice the cost of the noise, the way it scattered your focus, splintered your attention, frayed your thoughts, and now, without it, your mind feels sewn back together. You teach someone younger how to sit with themselves. You show them how to daydream, how to be bored, how to let thoughts drift without needing to do anything with them. You call it rest. They call it strange, but they try it. Your sleep becomes sacred. There is no screen before bed, no last-minute checking. You lie down and your body understands. It is time to let go. Dreams return in full color. Morning no longer feels like a fight. You start to crave slowness. You find beauty in repetition. You clean a table not to finish it, but to feel it. You sweep not because it's dirty, but because the sound soothes you. You light a candle for no reason. Your brain, once a battlefield of tabs and alerts, becomes a garden. Thoughts bloom, some die, others recede. You learn to care for them, not force them, not organize them, just notice, and one day, without even realizing, you sit for an hour without touching anything that blinks. You breathe, you stretch, you stare at nothing, and it feels like everything. You wonder what else might grow in this space, now that the noise is gone. There are still webs. Even after the internet is gone, the world remains woven. Not in code or cables, but in filaments of life that have always been here. Pulsing beneath your feet, humming through the air. You begin to notice them, the invisible threads of connection that do not need routers or satellites to function. You step into a forest, and something shifts. The ground beneath you feels aware. The trees, silent as they seem, lean toward each other in slow communication. You've heard the term mycelium, a network of fungal threads that stretch beneath the soil like a nervous system. One tree sends sugars to another. A dying stump receives nutrients from the living. It is not kindness, not intelligence in the way you understand it, but it is connection. It is a form of conversation you were never taught to hear. You kneel and touch the moss. It springs gently beneath your fingers. This too is part of the web, soft, damp, alive. There is no login here, no password required. You are simply present, and that is enough. Farther away, a pod of whales moves through the deep. They call across distances greater than you can imagine. Their songs ripple through water like long vowels through time. Their messages are not instant, but they are clear. The ocean has always carried sound. You realize you were never disconnected, only distracted in a garden. Bees dance in patterns to tell each other where the nectar lies. Birds murmur in flocks, reading the wind together. Trees bloom in sync, miles apart, guided by rhythms older than human memory. And among people, something stirs too. A memory of community that doesn't rely on pixels. You notice it in the way. Neighbors begin to gather slowly. At first, a shared meal, a long walk, a story told without screens. You remember the warmth of shared silence. Two people sitting side by side, doing nothing, needing nothing from a device. There is comfort in proximity, in breath, in gaze. You pass a stranger and feel a glance linger half a second longer. Not invasive, not digital, just human, just present. Around fires, people begin to speak again, not to broadcast, not to perform, but to remember, to laugh, to pass knowledge in voice and gesture and song. Stories stretch and meander. No one hurries to the point. The web here is woven in words. Someone plays a drum, someone hums. You tap your foot without realizing it. Rhythm is another kind of signal. It spreads without needing bandwidth. You begin to understand that the true network is not one you log into. It's one you are born inside of. You think about intuition, that quiet tug in your chest when something feels right or wrong. You used to ignore it, dismiss it in favor of data, but now you listen. It speaks in nudges, in patterns you feel, not prove. You meet someone new. There is no profile to scan, no archive of their thoughts to scroll through, just their face, their pauses, their voice. You listen more deeply. You ask more questions. You discover them moment by moment. You learn the art of noticing, the rise in someone's breath, the way their fingers fidget when uncertain, the shine in their eyes when they speak of something they love. You become fluent in presence. Your relationships change. Some grow stronger, some fall away, but all become clearer. There is less illusion now, less digital haze. You see people as they are, not as they curated themselves to be. You feel the power of rituals, shared meals, repeated greetings, morning routines. These become the scaffolding of your days, the threads that tie you to others, the signals that say, you are here and so am I. You look at old family photos printed on paper. They do not update. They do not scroll, but they hold something the feed never could: stillness. Memory you can hold in your hands. In the quiet, you notice your own internal web. A network of memory, emotion, breath. You start to map your moods, to feel how hunger affects thought, how movement lifts sorrow, how music opens doors you didn't know were shut. The web inside you is alive. The heart pulses, the lungs stretch, the gut reacts. You are a system of systems, a collection of signals. And when you lie down at night, no glow beside your pillow, no blue light against your skin. You feel the world more clearly. The house settles. The crickets sing. A breeze moves through an open window like a whisper. You are part of something that never broke, something that never needed wires to stay whole. Outside, the stars remain, their patterns unchanged. You trace them with your eyes, Orion, Cassiopeia. The same maps that guided sailors now remind you of your place. You drift, slowly, not toward sleep, but into connection deeper than signal, older than code. You wonder what other webs are waiting to be remembered. The night no longer hums with devices. No blue halos on bedroom walls. No flicker of screens beneath blankets. For the first time in years, the darkness is not interrupted. It stretches wide, unbroken, full of breath. You step outside and something stirs inside you. A pull, a quiet invitation to look up. The sky meets you like an old friend you almost forgot. Not a blank ceiling, not a screen, but a map of memory, dotted with fire, stars, so many of them. Not just the few you used to glimpse between towers or through light haze. Now they pour across the sky in soft cascades, pinpricks of story and science, scattered across a velvet dome. You tilt your head and breathe in the silence. Without city, lights and rooftop antennas, the sky deepens. You can see the Milky Way now, a cloudy river of stars flowing quietly from one end of the horizon to the other. You trace it with your eyes like a child reading a secret code. You wonder how many nights you lived beneath this brilliance and never looked. How often your eyes were pulled downward toward glowing rectangles, toward curated feeds, toward filtered realities. And now, with those distractions gone, the universe returns. There are no notifications here. No need to scroll. The sky waits patiently, saying everything at once and nothing at all. It does not refresh. It does not demand. It simply is. You begin to remember the old names. Orion, with his belt of 3 stars in a row. Cassiopeia, shaped like a crooked W. The Big Dipper, ladling light across the night. These patterns once guided travelers, told time, predicted seasons. They are more than stars, they are compass, clock, and calendar. You lie back on the grass. The earth is cool beneath you. The stars overhead do not blink in unison. Each one pulses in its own rhythm, its own ancient heartbeat. You feel small, but not lost. Tiny, but held. The longer you gaze, the more you see. Faint smudges that are galaxies, satellites still drifting silently, their signals now meaningless. shooting stars that arc quickly and vanish, like wishes sent into the unknown. You begin to wonder about light, how these glimmers have traveled for thousands, even millions of years, just to reach your eyes now. Each star is a message from the past, a silent letter from a place you'll never touch. You let your mind drift with them, past the moon, past Mars, past the spinning ring of Saturn, out beyond the asteroid belt, beyond the cold breath of Neptune, into the outer dark. Space stretches not like a hallway, but like a sigh. No walls, no end. You think about the Voyager probes, still humming faintly as they leave the edge of the solar system, carrying music. Greetings, maps, a golden record made by hands that believed. Someone might be listening. You wonder who might find it. You wonder if anyone will know how to play it. Above you, the stars remain unchanged. Wars have come and gone, empires risen and fallen, algorithms written and rewritten, but the constellations still trace their silent arcs across the dome. They outlast noise. They outlast time. You begin to feel your own place within the web. Not the digital web, but the one made of matter, of motion, of meaning. You are stardust, someone once said, and now it feels real. The iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, the carbon in your breath, all once forged inside exploding suns. You are not looking at the stars. You are looking at your relatives. In the absence of screens, your eyes adjust. You see more. Your pupils widen. The rods in your retina wake up, no longer bleached by blue light. You begin to see the sky as your ancestors saw it, vast, holy, full of questions. You remember how stories were written in these lights, myths born from alignments, gods drawn between stars, fate traced in shifting patterns, science and story always woven together. You feel both again, the wonder of understanding, knowing how fusion fuels the sun, how gravity bends light, and the comfort of not knowing, of letting mystery remain, of being held by something bigger than comprehension. The night no longer feels empty, it feels full, not of noise, but of presence, the kind of fullness that doesn't need to speak. It just surrounds you, like music too soft to hear, but too strong to ignore. You begin to measure time, not by clocks, but by constellations. The rise of Scorpio, the slow turn of the North Star, the drift of the moon across its silver path. Your rhythm changes. It slows, it steadies. You no longer fear the dark. It is no longer a void to be filled. It is a canvas, a cathedral, a cradle. You realize how much the light had hidden, how many things glow only when given enough quiet. In the sky, a star winks out. Or maybe you blink. You're not sure, but you smile, because now you are watching. You let your breath slow. The grass shifts beneath you. A breeze passes gently through the leaves. The earth spins beneath the stars, and you turn with it quietly, unknowingly, perfectly placed. You wonder what it might feel like to live every night like this, under a sky that speaks not in updates, but in awe. Your wrist is bare now. No gentle buzz to tell you when to stand, when to sleep, when to breathe. No graphs to show how well you rested. No rings to close. No steps to count. Just you and your body, as it always was. At first you notice silence, not outside, but inside. A quiet you hadn't realized was missing. There are no numbers, no metrics, no judgment, just sensation. Just being. You wake, not because your alarm said so, but because your body did. The light changes outside your window. Your breath deepens. You blink. You stretch. There is no score for this waking. No summary of your REM cycles. Only the soft return of feeling, You begin to wonder what sleep is without data. Not a thing to track, just a place to go, a rhythm to enter. You let your body teach you again. It does not rush. It remembers. You move through your morning differently, not guided by apps, not prompted by reminders. You listen. Your legs feel heavy, so you walk, not to log steps, not for achievement, just to move, to shift, to breathe. Hunger comes not on schedule, but in waves. A quiet signal from the gut. Not a number of calories, not a recommendation, just a knowing. You eat when your stomach whispers. You stop when it sighs. Thirst arrives as a dryness on your tongue, a weight in your head. You drink not because your device tells you to, but because your body asks. You learn again the subtle language of need. Pain feels different too. Not a problem to optimize, not a flaw to fix. Just a message, a nudge, a quiet signal from within. You sit with it. You place a hand on your shoulder. You breathe into it. You listen. You begin to notice how often your body spoke, and how often you ignored it, busy with charts, with measurements, with goals. Now there is space to hear. You stop logging everything. You stop proving your progress. You begin to trust. You run not fast, not far, but free. The wind presses against your face. Your breath grows louder. Your heartbeat rises in your ears. There is no pace to match, no PR to chase. Only motion, only now. Your muscles ache not in complaint, but in joy. You feel them sing, a low hum of life, a reminder that you are made to move. You begin to rest, not as an afterthought, but as a rhythm. You nap in a patch of sun. You pause. When tired, you stop without guilt. You no longer know your heart rate, but you know your heart. Its flutters, its heaviness, its silence. You place a hand on your chest and feel it thud, steady, ancient dot. You don't need a pulse sensor to tell. You're alive. You feel it in your fingers, in your breath, in your skin. Your body becomes a companion, not a project, not a machine, a presence, a teacher. You begin to dance, not well, not perfectly, but joyfully. There is no choreography, no points to earn, just rhythm, just release. You cry one day, and there is no app to record the reason, no mood tracker to tag the moment, only the weight in your chest, the salt on your cheeks, and when it passes, there is peace. You touch your own face in the mirror, not to analyze, not to correct, just to witness, just to see. You begin to understand the weather of your body, the clouds of fatigue, the lightning of hunger, the sun of movement, the rain of release. You live in it now, not in charts, not in stats, but in skin, in sinew, in breath. At night, you lie down without a sleep tracker. You don't check how many hours you got. You simply feel rested, or not, and that becomes enough. The mattress feels softer, the pillow cooler. Your body finds its own angles, its own stillness. Sleep returns as a friend, not a metric. You fall not into stages, but into softness. And in the quiet just before sleep, you ask your body a question: are you okay? Sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes the answer is wait. But always there is an answer. You no longer outsource this knowing. You carry it. Your body becomes a home again, not optimized, not measured, but lived in. And as you drift, you wonder what other signals have you silenced in pursuit of certainty. What voices wait in the quiet? You sit quietly one morning, hands wrapped around a warm cup, watching the light shift across the wall. There's no sound from your phone, no emails calling, no pings, just the slow rhythm of breath and light. And into this calm slips a question, soft but steady. Was it better before? You don't rush to answer. The question does not ask to be solved. It asks to be held, like a stone warmed in the sun. You turn it slowly in your mind. You remember how easy things once were. Groceries delivered in an hour. Music summoned with a word. Friends just a tap away. Everything smooth. Everything fast. But also everything loud. Everything urgent. And now, in the hush that followed the disconnection, you can hear things that once went unnoticed. Like your own footsteps on the kitchen floor. Like the rustle of a page turning. Like your own heartbeat when the room is still. You think of what was lost. The instant access. The frictionless plans. The playlists. The calls. The maps. The photos. Stored in clouds you can no longer reach. A kind of grief gathers in your chest. You didn't get to say goodbye to the internet. It simply disappeared. Like a friend who stopped answering without a reason. And even now, part of you checks, just in case, a flicker of habit, a ghost of expectation. There is sorrow here, real, raw, and quiet. You miss the playlists you curated over years, the bookmarked recipes you never tried, the people you knew only through glowing profiles, the videos that made you laugh when nothing else could. And yet there is relief too, the kind that comes, not from gain, but from release. Like letting go of a weight you didn't realize you were carrying. You feel it in your spine, in your jaw, in the way your eyes no longer squint. You see people now, not just avatars, faces on porches, neighbors, watering plants, conversations at markets, not in comments. Some of these moments are awkward. You forget names, you stumble over small talk. But there is something alive in the fumbling, something warm and real. You have time again to stare, to wonder, to finish. Things slowly, books, chores, walks, meals. You remember that time is not just something to manage. It is something to feel. You begin to notice changes in yourself. Not all of them comfortable. Your patience stretches. Your memory stutters, then strengthens. You forget how long something takes when you can't Google it. But you also forget how to rush. You find joy in paper, in writing lists, in sketching without purpose, in sending letters and waiting days for replies. You read the handwriting of others and feel closer to them. You remember poems now. Lines that once drifted across your feed now live in your breath. You hum them while washing dishes. You whisper them to the wind. You remember birthdays because you care, not because you're reminded. You show up because you meant to, not because your calendar buzzed. There are mistakes, missed appointments, forgotten items. But there is laughter too. Grace, a sense that being human is less about precision, more about presence. You wonder aloud sometimes, was it better? And someone answers, it was different. You nod. That feels true. Not worse, not better. Just changed. You meet others who feel the same, uncertain, unmoored, but open. You share stories. You share bread. You sit in rooms together and no one checks a screen. The silence becomes shared instead of awkward. You no longer track your every move, but you remember more. The way the sun looked on the window that morning. The way the soup tasted on a cold night. The sound of laughter that came from your own mouth. These moments settle in your memory like stones in a riverbed, not flashy, but lasting. You realize that knowledge now comes slowly. You ask, you wait, you search with your feet, you read entire books, and in doing so, you remember more, you understand more. There is space now, for forgetting, for wondering, for resting. You still miss the convenience, the infinite reach, but you also see what rushed in to fill the void. Connection, slowness, intimacy. You don't need to choose, you just need to notice. And so, you sit with the question, not as a problem, but as a companion. You let it rest beside you like a sleeping cat. You watch the steam rise from your cup. You watch the wind move the branches outside. You ask yourself, if it came back, would I want it? You don't know, not yet, and that's okay, because now you have time to decide. You sit quietly one morning, hands wrapped around a warm cup, watching the light shift across the wall. There is no sound from your phone, no emails calling, no pings, just the slow rhythm of breath and light. And into this calm slips a question, soft but steady. Was it better before? You don't rush to answer. The question does not ask to be solved. It asks to be held, like a stone warmed in the sun. You turn it slowly in your mind. You remember how easy things once were. Groceries delivered in an hour, music summoned with a word, friends just a tap away, everything smooth, everything fast, but also everything loud, everything urgent. And now, in the hush that followed the disconnection, you can hear things that once went unnoticed, like your own footsteps on the kitchen floor, like the rustle of a page turning, like your own heartbeat when the room is still. You think of what was lost, the instant access, the frictionless plans, the playlists, the calls, the maps, the photos stored in clouds you can no longer reach. A kind of grief gathers in your chest. You didn't get to say goodbye to the internet. It simply disappeared, like a friend who stopped answering without a reason. And even now, part of you checks, just in case. A flicker of habit, a ghost of expectation. There is sorrow here, real, raw, and quiet. You miss the playlists you curated over years, the bookmarked recipes you never tried, the people you knew only through glowing profiles, the videos that made you laugh when nothing else could. And yet there is relief too, the kind that comes not from gain but from release, like letting go of a weight you didn't realize you were carrying. You feel it in your spine, in your jaw, in the way your eyes no longer squint. You see people now, not just avatars, faces, on porches, neighbors watering plants, conversations at markets, not in comments. Some of these moments are awkward. You forget names, you stumble over small talk, but there is something alive in the fumbling, something warm and real. You have time again to stare, to wonder, to finish things slowly. Books, chores, walks, meals. You remember that time is not just something to manage. It is something to feel. You begin to notice changes in yourself, not all of them comfortable. Your patience stretches, your memory stutters, then strengthens. You forget how long something takes when you can't Google it, but you also forget how to rush. You find joy in paper, in writing lists, in sketching without purpose, in sending letters and waiting days for replies. You read the handwriting of others and feel closer to them. You remember poems now. Lines that once drifted across your feed now live in your breath. You hum them while washing dishes. You whisper them to the wind. You remember birthdays because you care, not because you're reminded. You show up because you meant to, not because your calendar buzzed. There are mistakes, missed appointments, forgotten items. But there is laughter too. Grace, a sense that being human is less about precision, more about presence. You wonder aloud sometimes, was it better? And someone answers, it was different. You nod, that feels true. Not worse, not better, just changed. You meet others who feel the same, uncertain, unmoored, but open. You share stories. You share bread. You sit in rooms together and no one checks a screen. The silence becomes shared instead of awkward. You no longer track your every move, but you remember more. The way the sun looked on the window that morning. The way the soup tasted on a cold night. The sound of laughter that came from your own mouth. These moments settle in your memory like stones in a riverbed, not flashy, but lasting. You realize that knowledge now comes slowly. You ask, you wait, you search with your feet, you read entire books. And in doing so, you remember more. You understand more. There is space now, for forgetting, for wondering, for resting. You still miss the convenience, the infinite reach, but you also see what rushed in to fill the void. Connection, slowness, intimacy. You don't need to choose. You just need to notice. And so you sit with the question, not as a problem, but as a companion. You let it rest beside you like a sleeping cat. You watch the steam rise from your cup. You watch the wind move the branches outside. You ask yourself, if it came back, would I want it? You don't know, not yet, and that's okay. Because now, you have time to decide. The quiet remains. Not empty, but full of something softer than sound. You wake into a stillness that doesn't feel vacant anymore. It feels alive. You stretch beneath the blanket and listen, not for a voice from a device, not for a tone or a ping, but for something subtler, a rhythm inside you, the pulse of your own thoughts as they begin to rise with the morning light. You are not reaching outward today. You are listening inward. There is a signal here, but it does not come from towers or satellites. It comes from breath, from the soft ache behind your eyes, from the moment you feel the floor under your feet, cool and solid. The world outside has quieted, but your own world has started humming again, slow, steady, wordless. You move through your day without prompts, without reminders. You make choices by feel, not schedule. You eat when you are hungry. You walk when your body asks. The clock is still there, but it no longer presses against your ribs. Time flows through you now, not around you. You begin to wonder how long the internet held you in its web, not just with information, but with noise, with patterns you did not choose, with rhythms that never matched your own. Now, your rhythm is returning, and it is unfamiliar, but honest. You spend time looking out the window, not to check the weather, but to simply see the way shadows move, the way the wind speaks through trees. You are remembering how to observe, how to witness life without trying to explain it instantly. There is no need to summarize what you feel. There is only the feeling, and the slow space it opens. You begin to hear your own ideas again, not in fragments, not buried beneath a scroll, but whole. You think in shapes and colors, not bullet points. You feel questions rising, not answers shouted. You find yourself journaling again, not for an audience, not to post, but to connect. You write letters and poems, unfinished and true. Your dreams stretch longer now. They are no longer interrupted by artificial light. They arrive in deeper layers. You wake with images and symbols you don't immediately translate. You carry them with you, like folded notes from your own subconscious. Your nights are no longer consumed by screens, but by the dark comfort of rest. Sometimes you miss it, the ease of search, the collective brain. But what you have gained is different. It is yours, not stored on a server, not shared in cloud space. It lives in your breath, in your curiosity. You learn through living now. You learn by asking, by trying, by listening to the slow unfolding. Of each day, there is a message forming inside you. It is not made of data. It is not packaged in images or trending words. It is old. It is quiet. It belongs to the rhythm of your blood, to the whisper of your intuition. You begin to trust it. You begin to ask yourself things, not because you seek immediate answers, but because you enjoy the shape of wondering. What do I love? What calms me? What would I do if no one else knew? The absence of the internet has made room for your own signals to rise. They are not urgent. They are not monetized. They are yours. You feel connected still, not through cables, not through networks, but through presence, through shared breath with someone across the table, through the rhythm of footsteps beside you on a walk, through eye contact held longer than usual. These are the signals that do not drop. There is no interface now, no middle layer, just voice to voice, skin to wind, thought to action. And in this stripped-down space, something surprising emerges. Peace, not the kind that comes from isolation, but the kind that comes from alignment. From the return of your own signal, unfiltered, you begin to understand that the real net has always been inside you. A web of nerves, of memories, of dreams. A network of sensations and instincts, refined over generations. You were never truly disconnected, only redirected. The world is quieter, yes, but it is also clearer. You see the shape of your days. You feel the slope of your energy. You begin to live by cycle and season again, not by notification. You follow the signal of your own mood, the brightness of your own thoughts. Some days you feel inward, slow. Some days you move outward, quick. You no longer force against it. You follow. You rest when you're tired, without guilt. You create when inspired, not on demand. You speak when ready, not when prompted. This is the intelligence of your own rhythm. This is the language of your own body, steady, layered, wordless. Others begin to say the same, that they are dreaming more, that their memories feel softer but stronger, that they are not as informed but more aware, that their minds feel less filled but more whole. You realize the world has not collapsed without the internet. It has changed, slowed, shifted, made space for breath, for noticing, for signals that had been long drowned out. And in that space, you listen to the hum beneath your thoughts, to the steady loop of your heartbeat, to the signal that comes from no device, but from the core of your being. It says, I am here, I am whole, I am still listening. And maybe, just maybe, that is enough. You rise in the hush before dawn, feeling the air inside the room settle like dust after a long journey of noise. Without glowing screens to fill the space, your ears are tuned to smaller sounds, your mind to gentler currents. You realize that silence does not arrive empty, but carries seeds of curiosity. The questions that once scrolled past you now surface like lanterns released on a still lake. They glow with patient light, drifting freely in the quiet water of your attention, asking nothing more than to be noticed. You breathe and they brighten, awaiting their slow spoken shape. You remember when answers reached you faster than thought, when every inquiry rushed into search bars like water down a drain. In that speed, the questions lost weight, becoming feathers, brushed aside by the wind of immediate reply. Now each question lands with the soft thud of a stone dropping into moss. Where does this path lead? How does bread rise? What makes a person trustworthy? Simple wonders expand like paper flowers in a bowl of water, unfolding because you finally provide the one ingredient algorithms never offered. The slow warmth of sustained regard, and they respond with unfolding silence. You begin to ask aloud, more often letting curiosity leave your mouth in full sound instead of tapping silently on glass. The act feels strange, almost ceremonial, as though each question is a bird released from a cage you forgot you owned. Some questions flutter nervously, then perch on the shoulders of friends, neighbors, strangers in line at the bakery. You watch their eyes widen, not with annoyance, but with recognition, because they too hold untended questions waiting for daylight. Conversation grows like ivy along old fences, weaving houses together, repairing gaps left by vanished wires and offering gentle answers. Some inquiries find no immediate solution, yet their journey becomes a story worth keeping. You carry a question to the carpenter about a loose leg on a chair, and he shows you the grain of the wood, the reason it split, the patient turning of a screw. You ask the grocer how to judge a ripe mango, and she presses the fruit against your palm, letting scent provide the lesson. These moments stitch knowledge directly into muscle and memory. The answers arrive through texture and smell, through shared laughter, through small mistakes corrected by touch that linger longer than data. The library steps creak beneath your feet as you return, carrying not only books but open questions. Inside the hushed hall, you discover reference desks alive again, staffed by guardians of paths through paper labyrinths. You voice your wonder about constellations or medicinal herbs, and the librarian's eyes spark like struck flint. Together, you trace finger trails across index cards, across spines, across maps where answers sleep in paragraphs rather than search results. The process itself feels medicinal. By the time you locate the chapter you sought, the question has already grown. Roots of comprehension inside you quietly taking hold. Even the streets become classrooms once questions return to breath. You overhear elders debating weather signs, reading the arc of swallows for coming rain. You pause, listen, absorb centuries of sky lore, distilled into a shared glance upward. Later, you test their wisdom, feeling the air thicken, catching the scent of petrichor before clouds burst. Each lived answer reinforces trust in experience over instant data. Curiosity branches outward, not downward. It connects you with layers of community once hidden behind usernames. Now knowledge passes hand to hand, like seeds, meant for every garden awaiting rainfall of shared understanding, to sprout. Questions also resurface within yourself. You ask why certain memories glow brighter now, why certain dreams repeat. Without constant distraction, you enter corridors of thought previously ignored. You sit beside your own uncertainty, offering it the courtesy once reserved for strangers online. Some puzzles reveal grief you never processed, joy you never amplified. You learn that self-inquiry is not indulgence but maintenance, like tending embers so future fires can warm you. Answers come slowly, through journaling, through walks beneath quiet trees, through conversations conducted in moonlight, that accept silence as part of speech and nurture deeper trust in being. Children become ambassadors of curiosity in this new, quiet era. They ask why the moon follows them down the road, why worms emerge after rain, why adults use devices that made them frown. Without swift explanations, you admit you do not know everything, and the admission delights them. Together you build small experiments, launching paper boats in gutters, timing their voyage, learning flow. You cut apples to watch oxidation, counting breaths until brown appears. Every discovery carries laughter, because learning is now embedded in play, not pressure. Childhood reclaims its laboratory, and you are invited inside to marvel at meaning. Commerce adapts to living questions as well. At the market, you notice price tags replaced by conversations. How much for these tomatoes, you ask, and the farmer responds with stories of soil and weather before naming a number. Negotiation feels less like haggling and more like acknowledging the labor of time and earth. Each exchange carries history. Each coin becomes thank you. You leave knowing who grew your meal, and they know who will taste it. The question fosters relationship, weaving producer and consumer into a mutual tale of seasons and planting trust like seeds for tomorrow's shared harvest too. Even faith communities feel renewed as members bring unfiltered questions to gatherings once structured by scripted replies. People ask about doubt, about suffering, about the silence of the sky. And instead of doctrines delivered in polished slides, there is shared reflection, candles lit, tears acknowledged. Mystery is allowed to remain, shining softly like stained glass touched by dawn. The questions themselves become acts of devotion, proof of hearts still daring to wonder. In this atmosphere, dogma loosens, compassion widens, and sacred spaces become shelters for curiosity. No longer classrooms of compliance, but gardens where seekers grow alongside patient possibility itself. Night arrives, and with it fresh questions. Shimmering beneath constellations, you learned to recognize again. You lie on cool grass, asking how vast the universe truly is and what notes the crickets play beneath the stars. There is no telescope handy, no instant answer, yet wonder fills you anyway, spacious as the sky. You trace lines between blinking lights, inventing stories ancient cultures once told. In the absence of certainty, imagination stretches, muscles long neglected now flexing with quiet strength. Questions become constellations inside your mind, guiding dreams instead of spreadsheets and mapping routes to tomorrow's tender, unfolding truths together as dawn spreads. Pale gold across your window, you feel the gathered questions resting inside you like seeds held in soil before the first rain. They are not heavy, they are hopeful. You rise and carry them into the day, trusting that answers will meet them in their own time. You understand now that living is less about conclusions and more about continuous curiosity. Each breath is a doorway, each moment a corridor, and questions are the lamps you carry to illuminate new corners. You step forward, not demanding certainty, but inviting discovery, letting wonder usher the next gentle chapter. You pause at your door and inhale the world as if for the first time. The air holds scents of bread baking down the street, of dew lifting from gardens, of distant coffee warming in kettles. You think of the bakery woman, the carpenter, the children with their paper boats, each encounter born from a question. You realize that this is how community regenerates, not through broadcast, but through small seeking voices. You resolve to protect this practice, to keep your questions tender, to offer answers slowly, nurturing the shared web now growing in breath and resting in unhurried grace. The day unfolds with errands and laughter and quiet work. Yet you remain attentive to the subtle tug of curiosity. A sparrow nests in the eave, and you wonder what material she chose. A friend hums a tune, and you inquire about its origin, discovering a childhood memory carried in melody. Each question opens a small door to deeper connection, leaving a glow that lasts longer than any notification ever did. The world becomes a library without walls, and everyone within it, both book and reader, both student and guide, circulating wisdom like unseen currents through daily shared silence everywhere. And as evening settles, you feel the gentle pull of another question yet unspoken. It hovers at the edge of thought, luminous and quiet, promising to lead you toward a fresh corridor of wonder by morning. You smile, recognizing its glow. You will not chase it tonight. You will let it drift beside your dreams, illuminating their paths with possibility. For questions no longer demand immediate answers. They ask only to be carried forward in trust, toward the widening horizon where wonder waits to be rewired once more in the quiet meadow. Between this chapter and tomorrow's awakening to wonder, the light touches your face before your thoughts fully return. There is no alarm, no screen glow, no sudden song of notification. Only light, soft and golden, spilling across your pillow like a slow tide. You open your eyes not because you must, but because the day has quietly arrived. In this version of life, wonder begins not in pixels, but in presence. And without the constant pressure of digital marvels, something softer begins to awaken inside you, a slower, older kind of awe. You sit by the window and watch the dust drift in shafts of morning sun. Each speck twirls like a planet caught in orbit, weightless and radiant. Once, you might have missed them, too focused on a scrolling feed or blinking alert. Now, you let your gaze linger. The moment feels like breaths suspended in air. Wonder has rewired itself. It no longer strikes. Like lightning, it blooms, like fog lifting slowly from a field. Outside, a spider stretches its web between two fence posts. You lean in, following the pattern, the glint of silk catching light at just the right angle. There is no camera in your hand, no compulsion to capture or post. Only you and the structure before you, a perfect, complex design, spun overnight with no audience but the wind. And you feel it again, that wordless marvel, like discovering something you once knew and forgot. As you step into the garden, the dew clings to your ankles, each drop a bead of glass cupped in the arms of grass. The world feels richer, fuller, more textured. You no longer need the higher resolution image to see beauty. Your senses have returned to their own sharpness, tuned by slowness. Smells seem deeper. Sounds seem nearer. You kneel to touch the damp soil, and it presses back with cool, honest presence. The earth has not changed. You have. Wandering without purpose becomes its own form of exploration. You follow a trail you've walked 100 times, yet this time you notice the cracks in the bark of trees, the moss nestled in their roots, the rhythm of birds overhead. You look at things for no reason. You observe them just to feel what they offer. Curiosity has loosened from its obligation to deliver answers. It becomes a companion, walking quietly beside you. Later, you watch the steam rise from your cup of tea. The curls lift slowly, spiraling upward like ghostly tendrils of thought. There is no urgency, no expectation. Just heat, breath, and time folding softly over one another. You taste the warmth. You notice its arrival on your tongue, how it fades, how it lingers. It feels strange to marvel at something so small. But it is precisely these small things that wonder has begun to cling to now. You remember how you used to search for spectacle. How awe came in digital flashes, in fireworks of headlines, viral moments, and glittering illusions. It felt good, then overwhelming, then hollow. Now, wonder is quiet and personal. It arrives when you need dough and feel it change beneath your fingers. It arrives when the breeze lifts the corner of a newspaper and makes it dance. These are not miracles, and yet somehow they are. You visit a nearby stream, drawn by the sound of water gently passing over stone. You sit and listen. Each splash, each trickle, becomes its own note in a song that has no composer and needs no applause. You watch the water find its way between rocks, adjusting, curling, gliding. You feel yourself doing the same learning too. Flow, not force. Your thoughts settle into rhythm with the stream. No input, no click. Just presence. Children chase insects nearby, their laughter echoing through the trees. One stops to show you a beetle black, shiny and slow. You hold it in your palm and watch it navigate the grooves of your skin like a foreign landscape. You feel a strange reverence, not fear, not boredom, just awe at the scale of things, how something so small can carry a story so complete. You let the beetle go and smile as it vanishes into tall grass. At night, you step outside with no flashlight. The dark does not frighten you. It invites. Your eyes adjust, pupils blooming wide, to catch every silver thread of starlight. You tilt your head and see constellations you forgot the names of, but the names don't matter now. What matters is that they are there, and so are you. Wonder glows not in knowledge, but in the quiet pulse of recognition. There is a softness to everything now, not weakness, but grace. You are no longer chasing wonder. You are letting it arrive. Like birds that visit feeders only when the garden is still, marvel appears when your mind no longer flutters. It rests on your shoulder briefly, and you learn not to grab it, but to be still enough that it stays. You begin to journal again, not to share, but to witness. You write about the leaf that spun to the ground like a falling coin. You write about the cat that blinked at you from a wall. You write about how the morning fog smelled like memory. These fragments become a kind of trail, not to an audience, but to yourself. Wonder, you find, is a breadcrumb path leading you home. Music changes too. You no longer need high tempo or lyrics that demand attention. You lean into tones that breathe, a cello's long pull, a single flute note, rain on rooftops. You find that silence, when framed just right, becomes its own kind of song. You close your eyes and listen. The space between sounds becomes a place, where thoughts can rest and reconfigure, where memories float in and rearrange themselves like soft furniture. The people around you shift in your perception. Without constant distraction, you notice more how their eyes linger when they listen, how their shoulders rise when they laugh. You become attuned to the wonder inside others, to their quiet attempts at joy, to their weathered hopes and sudden tenderness. Even conversation becomes textured. Each word carries weight. Each pause contains presence. You start collecting small things, not for display, not for value, but for story. A feather curved like a question mark, a pebble shaped like a heart, a pinnacone that smells of winter. These items gather on your windowsill, not as decorations, but as reminders that wonder is everywhere if you move slowly enough to meet it. And perhaps the greatest shift is this: you stop asking what wonder can do for you. You begin to ask what you can offer in return. Gratitude becomes a quiet practice. You touch the bark of a tree and thank it. You whisper to the moon. You speak aloud to the wind. These aren't rituals taught to you. They arise from within, like songs you always knew the melody of, but forgot the words. By now, your mind has changed. The circuitry of attention has rewired. You no longer crave updates. You crave stillness. You no longer seek novelty. You seek texture. And when something new does arrive, a color you've never seen, a bird you've never heard, it lands softly. In you, without the need for explanation, you rest differently, too. Sleep is no longer a collapse after exhaustion. It's a surrender into softness. You drift with images of moss and water and sky. Your dreams slow down. They hold fewer scenes and more feeling. And in the morning, you wake not with urgency, but with openness. There is no great transformation, no fireworks, no sudden revelation, just you noticing more, noticing longer, and feeling the quiet thrill of that noticing reshape how you belong to the world. And in the hush between two thoughts, another moment arrives, silent, patient, and alive with possibility. A moth brushes your cheek in the dark. A crow calls 3 times from the roof. A breeze passes through the curtains and shifts the dust. And without thinking, you smile, because wonder now lives everywhere. It has found its way back to you. Or maybe, just maybe, you have found your way back to it. And still, something deeper stirs, waiting just ahead, not a spectacle, but a signal. not out there, but within, where direction no longer glows in pixels, but pulses softly beneath your ribs. Let us follow that signal into what comes next. You rise slowly, not with urgency but with rhythm. There is no alarm, no chime from a distant server, no glowing badge asking for your attention. The morning comes not as a summons, but as a quiet invitation. The light through your window draws its own lines across the wall, soft and golden, and you follow them with your eyes, not needing to understand where they lead. You've stopped measuring time in notifications. You've stopped letting your direction be dictated by arrows on a screen. Now you feel your way forward, gently, like water through reeds, like roots in soil. You've begun to carry your own map. It doesn't live in your pocket, this map. It doesn't blink or buzz or recalculate when you turn. It isn't updated by satellites or corrected by code. It lives in your body, in the weight of your breath, in the tilt of your chest when you walk. It speaks through sensation and silence. It is not exact, but it is true. You've come to trust what rises quietly from within. A small instinct, a tug of interest, a memory that hums just beneath the surface. You no longer seek verification, you seek alignment. You've discovered that you do not always need a path before you. Sometimes it forms beneath your feet as you walk. The route isn't visible until you've taken the first step, and that, somehow, has become enough. You move slower now, not because you lack purpose, but because purpose no longer feels like a deadline. It feels like unfolding. You stop to watch. Birds gather sticks for a nest. You sit beneath a tree, not for shelter, but for presence. You look at your hands and remember what they're capable of, the making, the holding, the resting. These are not tasks on a list. They are waypoints on your journey. The map you carry now is drawn in scent and shadow, in the way your shoulders soften when you're near someone you trust, in how your breath deepens when you walk among tall grasses, in the sudden calm that arrives when you sit beside flowing water. These are coordinates no screen can offer, but your body reads them fluently. You've learned that silence holds direction, that when you stop trying to fill every space with sound or answers, the next step often emerges on its own, not always as certainty, but as permission, as openness. The unknown no longer frightens you the way it once did. You don't need the entire map at once. A single lantern is enough to light the next few steps. You've stopped asking, what should I do now? And begun asking, what feels alive right now? You follow warmth. You follow softness. You follow what brings you home to yourself. Some days, that means walking far. Other days, it means staying still. The map allows both. The map honors both. It's not just the outer world that's changed. It's the inner architecture of how you move through it. You don't schedule your day in 5-minute blocks anymore. You let the sun guide your rhythms. You let hunger and rest and interest shape your hours. You find that your energy blooms and fades like weather. And instead of resisting, you've begun to listen. You've found new markers, not the glowing icons of digital maps, but natural signs. The sound of bees means the flowers are awake. The way shadows fall tells you the time. The pattern of rustling leaves tells you where the wind is going. You used to look these things up. Now you look around. You've stopped searching for reviews, ratings, and rankings before trying something new. You ask a friend. You try it for yourself. You learn not from summaries, but from experience. If it doesn't suit you, you move on. If it does, you return. The map you carry trusts your response. It trusts your sense of enough. Even your memories feel different. Without the endless stream of captured images and shared timelines, your past has returned to a quieter form. You remember based on feeling, based on smell, based on how the air moved. You remember less, but somehow more deeply. What rises in you has weight. It returns because it matters, because it's yours. You speak differently now too. You pause more. You don't compete to be the loudest. You listen for what's underneath someone's words. You hear what they aren't saying. And when you do speak, it comes from a slower place, from presence, not performance. Even your dreams have changed. Without glowing screens before bed, without the whirl of other people's lives flooding your vision, your mind meanders its own way into the night. Dreams arrive with different textures, less borrowed, more rooted. And when you wake, they don't vanish so quickly. They sit beside you, lingering like steam from your tea. The relationships in your life have shifted too. You no longer message dozens of people you barely know. You tend to a few, deeply, with presence, with effort. You write letters. You show up in person. You notice tone, posture, the subtle way someone's eyes shift when they're unsure. Your conversations last longer, but travel slower. And in their quiet unfolding, they take you further than any digital feed ever did. There's a peace in knowing you aren't being watched, that your day isn't measured, tracked, and stored. You are no longer performing for algorithms. You are simply living, and in that living, your choices feel more like you. They carry your scent, your rhythm, your why. You've even stopped needing so many answers. You've realized that not knowing is not failure, it's openness. It's the doorway through which new understanding arrives. You live in curiosity now, not conclusion. You hold questions like seeds. You give them time. You give them silence. And you watch what grows. Sometimes someone asks you how you know where to go next. And you smile, because it's not a single thing. It's not a destination or a goal. It's a sense, a directionless direction. A kind of tuning fork in your chest that hums when things feel right, and you've learned to follow that hum, even when the road isn't marked. This doesn't mean everything is easy. The world without the internet is slower, yes, but also heavier. You can't hide from discomfort. You can't scroll past pain. But even that feels honest. Even that feels human. You face it. You sit with it, and somehow that makes it less sharp. You've stopped escaping so much. You've stopped needing entertainment to fill every empty space. Boredom no longer scares you. It feels like rest, like a room with windows open. And in that space, you remember what you love, not what you liked, but what you truly love. What stirs something old and essential in you? The map you carry now isn't one you could hand to someone else. It's not universal. It's yours. It's made from the time you watched the moon rise slowly above a frozen lake. From the story a stranger shared beside a fire. From the ache in your chest when someone hugged you longer than expected. It is a map made of feelings, of presence, of breath. You carry it in your body, in your choices. In the quiet way you notice the world now. It's not always accurate, but it's always alive. And that makes all the difference. So when someone asks, how do you get where you're going without the internet? You answer, not with direction, but with attention, with patience, with the stillness it takes to hear what's already whispering within. You don't need reception. You don't need signal bars. You only need to be here. Right here, fully. And when you are, the world unfolds around you like a trail made of light and breath and sound. You carry the map, not in your hand, not in your pocket, but in the rhythm of your noticing. And in the silence between heartbeats, you realize something even deeper. You've been home the whole time. And so, the journey slows, now not to end, but to settle, to exhale, to rest in the gentle knowing that your next step, when you take it, will be yours alone. And it will be enough. Good night, good night.